Let's be honest, AI is everywhere. Everyone's talking about it, everyone's investing in it, so why are so few companies actually getting real, game-changing value out of it? Well, today, we're going to dive into this massive paradox that's happening in the business world, and more importantly, we're going to lay out a super clear framework for how to actually fix it. Okay, let's get into it. I want you to look at this number, 5%. This, right here, might be the single most important statistic in enterprise AI today. According to research from Fujitsu, this is the tiny fraction of organizations that have seen a significant $1 million+ impact from their AI projects. That's it. Just 5%. And this just shows you how wild the disconnect is. You've got a staggering 98% of companies out there playing around with AI, running experiments, but only that top 5% are actually breaking through and making it work at scale. That is a huge gap between the hype and the reality. So what on earth is going on here? And that leads us to the big question for this whole explainer. With literally billions of dollars being poured into this, and almost everyone trying it out, why is the real success rate so low? Why are all these promising AI pilots just fizzling out? This quote really reframes the whole problem. The issue isn't that the technology is failing. AI is incredibly powerful. The real problem is that most companies are trying to build this futuristic high-tech skyscraper on a foundation of sand. It can't support the weight. And that brings us to the main idea here. My favorite way to think about it is this. A lot of companies are treating AI like some kind of magic wand. They're trying to bolt a rocket engine onto a bicycle, thinking it's suddenly going to fly. But what really happens when you do that? And here it is. This is the absolute gut punch truth. If your data is a total mess, if your workflows are clunky and inefficient, AI isn't going to magically fix any of that. In fact, it does the exact opposite. It just makes you do all the wrong things, but faster and at a much bigger and more expensive scale. AI doesn't fix a broken process, it just accelerates the mess. Okay, so that's the problem. It's a big one, but how do we actually fix it? Well, the solution is to stop obsessing over the shiny new AI tool for a minute and instead focus on building a strong foundation. This foundation-first idea is all about 3 critical pillars. First, and I really mean first and most importantly, you have got to get your data house in order. There's this saying that goes, business needs prediction. Prediction requires machine learning. And machine learning, well, it depends on data. Everything, and I mean everything, starts right here. But here's what things look like for most companies. A massive 80 to 90% of their data is what we call unstructured. Think about it. Emails, PDFs, call recordings, all of that stuff, it's basically a mountain of chaotic, messy information. You can't run a super sophisticated AI engine on low-quality fuel, but that is exactly what most organizations are trying to do. And the old ways of managing all that data, they just can't keep up anymore. As KPMG points out, trying to use these rigid, old-school data governance models, it's like trying to navigate a new city with a folded-up paper map when you've got a GPS right in your pocket. It's just too slow and clunky for the fast-moving, real-time data that AI needs to actually work. Okay, so pillar number 2 is all about rethinking your processes. Once you've started to tame your data, you've got to look at how work actually flows through your company. It's not enough to just automate one little task. You have to rethink the whole workflow from scratch. The big shift we're talking about is moving away from those old linear processes, where one person emails a file to the next person who then has to manually kick off the next step. The goal is to get to an event-driven system, where as soon as one task is done, it automatically triggers an AI to take the next action. That's when AI becomes a real collaborator, not just another tool. And finally, we get to the third and, probably the most overlooked pillar, your people. We have this idea that employees are fighting against AI because they're scared for their jobs. But the data, it tells a totally different story. Just look at this. Research from TI People shows that the #1 barrier holding back AI adoption is inadequate training. Almost half of employees say that. And number 2 is a lack of skills. Fear of losing their job. It doesn't even make the top 2. So the problem isn't that people are resistant, it's that they're not ready. Man, this quote from a customer service agent just says it all, doesn't it? Employees are getting these incredibly powerful tools just dropped in their laps with no instruction manual. They don't need another boring, generic webinar. They need specific, hands-on training that shows them how to use AI in their actual day-to-day job. They're not unwilling, they're just unequipped. So, when you put this all together, what's the big takeaway for business leaders? It means that real leadership in the age of AI isn't about picking the coolest, flashiest new technology. It's about designing an organization where that technology can actually thrive. What this means is that leaders have to get their hands dirty and bridge the gap between their tech teams and their business teams. They need to demand model valuation, not just model valuation. That means asking different questions. Stop asking, how accurate is the algorithm, and start asking, how much profit is this algorithm going to generate? You have to force everyone to speak the same language by turning all that techie jargon into real business KPIs, things like cost savings, new revenue, or customer retention. That's how you build the bridge to real, tangible value. And that brings us to the end. So the big takeaway here isn't don't invest in AI. Not at all. It's to stop putting the cart before the horse. Instead of asking, how can we use AI, I want you to start by asking yourself this. What is one broken, messy, inefficient process in our organization that we absolutely have to fix before we even think about bolting a rocket engine onto it? The answer to that question, that's where your AI journey really begins.